This is our
Hello there.
end of the month Geek and Greet. We have some new people joining us. Would everyone like to make their introductions?
Who you want
For sure.
first?
Who do I want first?
Yeah.
Start with Alex.
How
Okay.
you gonna start this buffet?
You probably seen me before on a previous Geek in Greece, but I'm a developer, right? I'm a South African American dual citizen, right? I spend a lot of time abroad, and I'm working on my own tabletop RPG after DMing Pathfinder for about 5 years, and it's pretty far in the works. But here I'm planning on talking about my experiences being a developer for and well being a DM and participating in the tabletop community in the non-Western world, which would be South Africa, China, and like a few other places that I've noticed.
Okay. Arcane.
Alrighty. My name is Ahmad Abdelhadi, and I am a Palestinian slash Syrian living in Jordan. And I'm developing my own tabletop game called Quasar Tales from the Endless Void. But not just that, I'm also making the terrain and the miniatures for it, so all 3D printable. And the pixel
Triple threat.
art and everything. I'm just wearing all the hats basically. So, but yeah, I also DM here, and I've been DMing for a while for 5e and as well for Quasar. And yeah, we have a very small tabletop scene, but I'm usually there if there's something going on. So,
Okay. Mitch.
Hey, what's up? I'm Mitch. You could also call me Mitch Bustillos. You can find me on the Twitters and everything like that. I published and did Necrobiotic, which is a TTRPG, just came out. Dope as hell. You'll find me at Gen Con and Origins for the last couple of years, and certainly this year with some new and cool stuff. Other than that, I stream, I play TTRPGs. I got 2 more TTRPGs to do, and then I get to retire and enjoy. I think what is left for every TTRPG designer, which is to go off on a little boat with like flames of arrows coming at you until you sink into the ocean.
What is this
That's how
retire?
everyone goes.
When do game
What?
designers retire?
You choose a number and you stick to it. 2. I got 2. Okay, 2 more games and I'm out. I'm out of the game. All right.
Oh
I'm
God,
John
I have like
Wicking
a
it.
list of like 6 or 7 or 8 still to go through.
Oh God, you got to bring that number down. Okay, 2. You got 2 left, and then you're done. I don't make the rules; I just enforce them.
Yeah.
I'll be happy if I just get one done.
That is also.
Oh, the first one was a pain, but the next 2, oh my God, it's like pulling teeth.
Which actually is easier than TTRPG work. Like, if I had to choose one or the other, it would let's pull teeth. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's easy. In the
Yeah.
80s, when my adult teeth started coming in, I would just pull out my baby teeth. It's like, okay, oh, that one's loose, gone. Okay, oh, that one's loose, gone.
Yeah.
And my mom's
Look,
like, what
give
are
me a
you
hammer.
doing? Oh, I didn't use a
Give
hammer.
me a hammer. Give
I
me a
used
Baltimore
pliers.
sidewalk. One of
My
those
mom-
2.
My
Kick
mom was
face
just staring
in.
at me. It's like, why are you using pliers on your teeth? They're loose. They're bugging me. You know,
Exactly. Look, that's just
Autism, what can you do?
Western healthcare.
as a Canadian, I object to that.
Stop. You live in a magic wonderland. I don't even believe that Canada exists. It's just this weird object north of us on a map that
We call it
hear
Canuckistan.
fairy tales. Oh God.
Well, that is the actual cult that believes Australia doesn't exist.
Oh God,
Oh,
I had
yeah,
a talk with one of those not too long ago. Wow.
One of our elected Congress people thinks the world's flat.
Yeah. She's like,
no.
if the world was actually round, why would they push it so hard?
Yeah, that's their excuse. They're like, oh man, it's everywhere.
I'll
See?
never understand
There's a globe
the incentive
there.
behind hiding that. Like, why would you? Why would you? What would be the point? What would be
Everybody
the
in
point
Australia are paid
hiding that?
actors, and I'm like, I have a cousin who lives in Australia.
Yeah, I think the counter argument for that is always I think we can all get behind, natural selection and stuff like that, and so for us, like we just gotta wait and flat earthers will be gone, right? It has to, right? If nature does its thing, people are gonna look at them and be like, yeah, I'm not reproducing with that. That sounds stupid.
That's the problem, though. There's too many on both sides.
So the thing I want to do as a troll, I was just thinking about this the other day, is go to a flat Earth convention, posing as a flat earther, and then start asking people there, can you give me some evidence that I can use with these round earthers to actually, refute their claims? Like, math and numbers and evidence and stuff like this, so I can throw it in their faces and then watch these people struggle.
Well, so math and numbers and all that stuff like that, they're fake. Haven't you ever watched Beyond the Curve?
Definitely.
I mean, there's imaginary numbers, right? That's stupid. Who made that up? That's crazy.
No. Imaginary numbers are very real. Like talking from a physicist perspective here, right?
Man, I don't know if we can trust physicists. That sounds silly.
Okay, no.
Do engineers count? Okay, I'm not too.
No, engineers, get under the bridge.
So if you look up, I believe it's like e to the xi, right? That's actually like a wave function, and that's like an oscillation function that is required to like model so many like quantum mechanics, even just like a movement of a spring or just any kind of wave, light, like pretty much everything, and that's just e to the I, right?
So the thing that got me yesterday,
giving me like flashbacks to mechanical vibrations class. I'm like, I do not want that.
Yesterday, apparently, some physicists were able to watch like matter transform into antimatter or something like this. Like they actually switch states, and I was like, wait, that's a thing? You can do that? What? Okay. So they said, well, this actually helps solidify some stuff in quantum theory, and I was like, okay, well, whatever. As long as I don't flip into an antimatter person, this is all good.
Yeah, I mean, I try to avoid those articles because it always makes me feel bad. As I wrote a paragraph for this make-believe game, and they're like, yeah, we reversed antimatter shit. I don't know, and I'm like, well. Equal productive days.
Tell you what, honestly, it is. I'll tell you why. All right.
Hit me.
So before I got into working into RPGs, I was working with a large telecom company. First of all, in digital fabrication. So we were running this fabrication lab, and I got promoted to work in their innovation hub. It's supposed to be this big, place for startups. And we're doing like all this pushing innovation in the country with VR and AI and so on and so forth. And you realize that a lot of the innovation world is very hollow. It's very much talk and not actually of worth. But that's not my point. My point being a very big push for me to actually quit and work full time on making games and designing minis and stuff was the fact that I realized it brings people a lot of joy, a genuinely huge amount of joy. And it brings people together, right? You're sitting together at a table with a bunch of people and you're making this magical connection with them where one person is just deciding the rules and everything that's going on, and everyone's just genuinely immersed in that moment, in that place. The science is absolutely vital to our species. We need to keep advancing it and pushing it, but we also do need entertainment. And I think that, saying one is objectively more important than the other, it just isn't possible. I don't think it's possible.
Snap.
Yeah, the thing with me, the way I see it is that game designers and game masters and stuff like this, they fill a critical role in society that has been there since the beginning, which is we're storytellers. Exactly.
Yeah,
there always needs to be storytellers, even if it's like complete fiction and stuff like this. It is giving something to the population which increases the value of living.
You want to say something?
So I also want to say, right, that if you're writing a tabletop RPG, right, more people is going to read that if you publish it than if you publish a paper on quantum mechanics or anything. Like, regardless, like how many eyes are actually going to read your thing if you publish it to a scientist?
And that's even
Are you
assuming the
Stephen
journal is
Hawking?
like publicly available and like
Oh
accessible to
god.
normal people.
Yeah, not behind
you
a
know?
paywall. Like, oh god.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. No,
Oh,
I mean,
Mitch, one thing I'm going to mention, because everyone gets one, we can't swear on the stream because we're trying to keep get sponsors. You got your one. It's good.
That's
Oh, no.
okay. This is gonna be
Hey,
hard.
do what I do. If you're about to swear, just say cats instead of the swear. It's like what the cats, you know?
Look, I will say that every time I've tried to keep it PG, it has been difficult. I will do my best.
Okay.
I learned at a very young age that you don't swear around adults. So basically, it's like if I'm in a formal setting, I don't swear. It's that simple. If I'm in a casual setting, my wife corrupted me and I swear. I used to not swear until I met her. And she swore like a sailor, so
like just
I there is no situation where I'm not swearing. Like I'll be at like I take my like 4-year-old to elementary school and I'm like, look at these sons of bleeps. And I'm like,
how's your French?
Oh, French. Is that just cursing with a heavy accent? Because I could do that.
No. Quebecois French uses religious paraphernalia as their swear words. So like hostie de sacrament de tabernacle calice. That's if you're in Quebec, that's a huge bad word thing. To everybody else, it's like what? It is a uniquely Quebecois thing.
I'm just gonna roll. You are now my bleeper. So whenever you see the mouse start to head down, foul, just start like yelling or something. Yeah.
Right. I think we should actually like get on topic, right? Perhaps.
On topic.
We are on topic. This isn't entirely what the stream is about.
We are, yeah. That's fair. But
now, if somebody wants to bring up something, step right in.
I did want to talk about my experience, right? And the differences of developing a tabletop RPG, right? In the Western world versus the non-Western world, and also like bring my background into it right here. So I was a dual citizen, right? I was born in South Africa. I moved to the US, right? I was actually homeschooled for the majority of my schooling, right? So I didn't actually interact with anybody outside of volunteer work. I volunteered at a zoo. I volunteered at a library in South Africa, tutoring kids, right? And a bunch of other things. But otherwise that, I had almost no social interaction. I didn't hear about D&D till I went to university. I never saw a D20 until I got to a liberal arts university in Portland, Oregon. From there, right, I got introduced to it. I got introduced to Pathfinder because D&D 5e hadn't taken off yet.
Pathfinder.
Then, yep, right. And I sort of fell in love with the game shortly afterwards, became a DM, all of that kind of jazz. And so I came from that original like Western perspective, right? But then when I went back home and I tried to find like tabletop groups, right? They just didn't really have an establishment in South Africa yet. Those actually started coming up in the last 5 years, right? And only got popular in the last 2 years, right? One of the big things is that when I started wanting to make my own system there, right? Like in the US or in South Africa, what you find is that everybody in South Africa is only interested in D&D or Warhammer or like the, I guess, popular things, right? There's not even Pathfinder, right, in South Africa. No Pathfinder books, no nothing, no other systems that you can really think of. The conventions, they're lucky if they have D&D, right? And they're all like corporation based, right? And there's like not a developer mindset, and there's almost no support for developers whatsoever, right? If you take a, I actually was going to demo my game at Comic-Con, but Comic-Con Cape Town, but the people wanted to charge me $1,200 to set up a booth, right? in Comic-Con, right? And like so, hmm, I I can't really handle that, right? And
No.
yeah,
Don't
and
they have public play tables?
yeah, but they got rid of them.
They got rid of the public play tables.
Yeah.
Was this
After
during?
telling me that yep.
I was gonna
What?
say, was this during COVID?
Nope.
Huh,
This was
Hmm.
2 months ago.
2 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, post COVID, I feel like conventions are trying to get back. What was it? A couple of the big ones is either PAX Unplugged or Origins. No longer use like rugs for the center of the aisles, just to cut costs and stuff. So I feel like even though we're post COVID, conventions are still feeling that those couple of years where their money just went out the window.
Yeah, I mean, I just came back
We
from
never
Can
really
Games.
had them to begin with. It's very rare, and like we did have a couple of anime conventions that were like fan made, but we don't get Comic Con or anything like that to start. And that's it's part of the problem.
Yeah.
It's definitely part of the problem. So,
Yeah, I mean, we just had Can Games up here in Ottawa, and it's a 3-day convention during the Victoria Long Weekend, and it feels like it did before COVID, so it was all pretty good. We had a good turnout. We had the booths and everything. We had the public tables for game testing and all that other stuff. And one of the people that I'm working with there, he's now going off to Europe for conventions. He's going up to Yellowknife for conventions, and I mean, it's been pretty good. So yeah, but I guess the further east you go out of Western Europe, the more rare gaming gets to be, I guess.
Um, so I have some experience with that, like in China, but that's a big tangent afterwards, right? First, I'll finish like a little bit on the South African part, and then we can move on to someone else, right? But yeah, it also was very much also a white thing, right, in South Africa
Hmm.
because those people had sort of expendable income and time, and if you are living in sort of like more less hospitable area and more crowded place, right? Then you do not have venues to play the games with, right? Other people, right? And so, right, I mean, if you're living in like a shanty town, like a lot of people
Thank you.
in South Africa do, right? A lot of people or people that were pushed into shanty towns, then you just don't have right income to spend on well miniatures that you then set up and then people will take them because well that's just how it works, right? um
Nice.
and so like that's a big barrier there as well, but you see more so the distribution than you do so in the US for now because like there's this very strange look when I see like all of my tabletop US friends it very much they go into a particular demographic, and I don't really know how to solve the problem because a lot of people have their own experiences and I really wish they would bring more of those to the table, but it is what it is.
I've seen that too here. So whereas we don't have like our divide is not really on culture, it's more of an economic, just purely economic divide. And that's a big part of that is kind of just because Jordan is really in the center of a lot of countries and a lot of turmoil around us. So everything's been, historically been shooken up a lot by a lot of immigration, a lot of things going on. And so you've got this very wide gap, a very, very wide gap. In the city where we are, in the capital in Amman, even in the city itself, if you go west versus East Amman, it's a whole different step, as far as prices go, as far as culture goes, as far as everything, right? West Amman's a lot more westernized, funny, I guess, but and it's a lot more generally well off. And typically that's where you see a lot more people that are interested in this sort of thing. In East Amman, it's a lot more local and a lot less globalized and less connected with all that. And when you leave Amman as a whole, things change entirely. right? Like you can find little villages that are entirely disconnected, right? Um, and that's also something we do see here. Generally people that are interested in these kind of games are very westernized and generally somewhat well off to a degree. But even with that, you still have the problem of, well, we don't have shops that sell anything that you need. We don't have dice stores, we don't have mini stores, you don't have a place to get the source books, you don't have any of that. So my friends and I would, if you don't get it online, which customs here charge you an arm and a leg when you get something online, you have to either pirate it, get a PDF, or improvise, So most of our time playing, most of the time we've spent in the years before has been purely making do with what we have, right? Paper minis, chess pieces, whatever you can put together.
Well, it's amazing that you have what you have, like going through all of that, Darkane. You're pretty far, like in your project, and you've made so much stuff. I don't know, like I can't help but be impressed.
Thank you, but yeah, personally for me, I've had it a lot easier because my professional path is in making things. I'm a maker at heart, a mechanical engineer, and digital fabrication is my specialty. And so I started making my own minis, right? First paycheck I got a 3D printer, and it was like, let's go, you know.
So,
But yeah, laser cutting the stuff, whatever. Now it's gotten a bit easier. Where we have this one card shop that's been bringing in things, and it's starting a little bit. It's crawling, but it's moving at least.
It's interesting because this reminds me of like when I first got into gaming, 1982, 1983, 1984. When I first got the book, and like it came with dice and stuff, but there were no game stores and there was no internet. And like when somebody got their hands on the TMNT RPG, they photocopied the entire book and I got the photocopy, and that's how I played the game. Because I mean, again, no game stores anywhere. If you found someplace that sold RPGs, you were lucky. The only time I found an RPG store was a place called Chess and Games Galore, and it was like a little section in the back that had a few game books. The first edition of Doctor Who, when the Star Wars RPG first came out, I mean, we got it there, but that was the only place. And that wasn't until like 1986, 1987. So it sounds like you've got that, but also you kind of got the benefit of the internet to get more information. So you could print your own books once you got the PDFs and stuff.
Pretty much. I mean, like dice, for example. For us, dice were precious, right? When someone would travel, it's like, you come back with dice. Okay, you bring everyone a dice set.
I remember buying my first dice set.
Yeah, I mean, to this day, every dice set I have,
and
I've kind of like been keeping this up as a tradition. Every dice set I have is a gift from someone. Right? So I know who gave me every single dice set I have and in chronological order, right? How they came in here. And like now it's a bit easier to order dice. My friend ordered this like big critical role bag with gods know how many sets of dice are in there.
I have a 25-year-old D20.
What now?
I have a D20 that's 25 years old.
Oh,
it's
damn.
Old enough to drink.
Well, your D20 is one year younger than I am. So
also, I like the remembering of those who gifted your dice, because you could just call them up and be like, I hate you so much right now. And then just hang up and stare at your like one on the die, like this person.
So you brought up minis. How important are minis in your gaming community? Because like we do Theater of the Mind. We haven't touched minis in forever.
Same.
Well, they weren't at first. When we played D&D, paper minis were fine. And we mostly what we played on, at least in my group, we didn't even know there were other groups. We just discovered another one recently. We were playing on these acrylic boards I laser cut into a grid. And so you could slide them around, turn them into a map, and draw on them with a marker. And I would just print out these little paper minis and we'd use those. But nowadays, for D&D, we just want minis on the table. We just think they're cool. But for Quasar, it's a bit more important, mainly because Quasar is a skirmish game hybrid. So you want to check for cover. You want to, see how your line of sight, things like that. And so oftentimes I use Warhammer minis for some of like the random thugs or enemies. But when I have the resources for it, I print out my own designs and use those. Because yeah, they're universe accurate, right?
So
I don't have that luxury. I'm not allowed to touch Warhammer.
you mentioned acrylic boards that you cut out and draw on.
Yeah. Oh, sweet.
We sell
those
them.
are a lot like them.
Yeah, they're double-sided. We sell them.
Yeah.
Do you have some items that you 3D printed that you can show on camera, Arcane?
I've got a bunch all the way back in my room, but I can actually show you. I've got videos if you want for the dice tower that
Guys,
I've
drop a link
got
in
for the little
in the chat.
yeah, that'll work. If you want to give me a moment, I'll run over and grab them and come back. Get the whole box of wonders that I bring over to the session every day. I'll just be a sec.
Yeah,
I'll run.
So Vez, drop a link into the chat to your store.
I don't have an online store at the current moment. I only have a physical store.
I see.
But
That's creepy.
June 1st. June
Okay.
1st, I'm going to be trying to get a store up.
Yeah, but like in general, what I've noticed is that if a area does not have like a long established tabletop RPG scene, then there's a lot less support for any kind of person who's trying to make something new. And I'm not really sure like why exactly that is, but right. I guess actually this is a good question for you, Christopher, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you get into wanting to make your own system in RPG? Like at what year of like having that, right? Growing up in that less gamified world.
You're gonna be surprised at my answer.
Yep.
I wrote my first RPG 6 months before I knew they existed.
All right. Well, I mean, like a story, I think the first book that I was interested in was like a choose your own adventure like story book, right? And
those didn't even exist yet for me.
Whoa.
Yeah. What I did was I had gone to a shopping mall. Somebody had a board game that was like 3D with little figures and stuff like this. And they're like, yeah, so this is the thing. And here's all the moving parts and stuff. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Went home, drew a grid on a piece of cardboard, cut out little people with little swords and whips and shields and stuff like this, gave them names and personalities, and wrote adventures for them that you got to choose how you went through the adventure. My birthday turns around, somebody gives me D&D, and I'm like, oh, this is a thing.
Well, how old were you?
12.
Why the flippity freckles you thinking about whips at 12?
Because Indiana Jones.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense now. Yeah, I never watched that movie, so by the time I was thinking of whips, it was for very different reasons. Carry on.
That reminds me of a story my wife told me at one point. She was talking with a friend at a place where she worked, and she was talking about dungeon mastering. And the person kind of pauses after hearing her and says, your version of Dungeon Master and my version of Dungeon Master are two completely different things. And there's like, you could combine the two. I mean, like, you take a D20, you bring it down to the dungeon, and it's like, so let's see how many times I'm going to whip you. Oh, I rolled a 6.
Oh.
I mean, I remember, what was it? LARPing here in Baltimore, we used to do vampire LARP at the Kink Club. So we're chilling on the dance floor with all these lights and stuff, and then we have like a this cross made of steel on the side of it with chains hanging from it, still damp from whatever the heck someone was doing with it before.
Let's keep it PG,
times.
people.
That's PG, right? That's
pushing PG it, but plus. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's PG. PG-13.
My perspective
very much on the line, I think.
I'm like, what is PG again? I have never
parental guidance.
Oh, I meant like in terms of life in general. I have been operating on an R since for the last decade and a half, and so whenever someone's like keep it PG, I'm like,
If you wouldn't see it on the
Oops.
Smurfs, don't use it.
I don't watch the Smurfs.
Well, that's your problem.
You guys
I've
asked about
seen
the
some
terrain and
really
stuff.
bad Smurf stuff. I'm not even gonna lie.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, there is R-rated Smurfs.
It was funny you were
Here's
talking about
the
like
little
combining.
forklift I've got.
Oh, nice.
Little, I use this one often in my games, and
Nice.
I also like to make a little more dynamic terrain pieces. So like this robotic arm, you can like twist around in the fight itself. You like readjust the way it moves up and down as well, and like keep it in that form. So I've had
Nice.
players like hack into it and then just knock a boss around with it, just left and right, keep smacking him around. For minis, I've just got this one right now that looks real like kind of my favorite at the moment is one I kind of broke it actually, but
Oops.
it's one of the Unseelie Space Pirates.
Unseelie
And
Space
kind
Pirates.
of
Now that's interesting.
yeah, so they're basically in my game there's several factions. One of them is the Volpathian Empire. They're these fox people from the Feywilds. And they're like the worst of their criminals that are just innately chaotic people. They send to work with the space pirates.
I got a question for
And
you.
they're actually a secret cult that worships Archfey. And,
Yeah. So just recently, I wrote an RPG called First Contact. It for the Drive Through RPG, not a sponsor, contest. It's setting generic, so it's like sandboxy. Having Unseelie Space Pirates, I'm like, could you write a setting for that to go along with
I mean,
it?
there is, right? Like the whole setting is like the game comes with its setting, basically. So it's a sci-fi space opera setting with science fantasy, more like.
I
So
mean, a
you've got
conversion over.
magic and all that together, right? So you've got a mix of like the humans are more under this whole cyberpunk vibe with this evil it's called the Soul Corporation that's ruling all of humanity. Whereas you've got like on the opposite end of that spectrum, you've got like the Order of the Black Diamond, which are these owl people that worship
That
a
sell
god
cheese?
AI that gifts them magic, you know? And it's very wild in that sense, but it's also somehow really grounded and just it's it's space opera in the sense of like original trilogy Star Wars,
Yeah.
where yeah, space wizards just you know.
Yeah. You said Black Diamond. The first thing that came to mind was cheese. They worship
Cheese.
cheese. Yeah, Black Diamond is a brand of cheese in North America.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I was thinking Black Dynamite, but that's awesome. Oh.
All right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, see, there's that cultural disconnect between the new world and the old world. What is this Black Diamond you speak of? It's cheese. What?
When I heard Black Diamond,
Yeah.
the first thing I thought of was dilithium. I thought maybe it was a new type of crystal.
Evil
that
dilithium.
They were
Okay.
using inside their warp drive.
We just need like a psychiatrist to analyze us now based on like our answers. What does this mean?
I was going for a bit of so I like to put occult history and knowledge is one of my favorite hobbies. So I like to slip in a lot of that into the game in many places. So a lot of the Black Diamond stuff has that, in there. But I also this is a talking point I kind of wanted to mention was that often us as people living in the Levant and Arabic regions, we don't get the best representation in a lot of these games and so on. Typically, when you have fantasy Arabic settings, it's very Orientalist and it's
Yeah.
frankly insulting,
Yeah.
you know? And so, what I've been trying to incorporate here is a lot more of the subtle, deeper lore of like old Canaanite and like Bronze Age sort of history, and as well as some of the folklore that we have. So,
I very much approve.
names like the Abnat Yam or the Qareen as one of the playable subspecies. And that's like I've noticed like with the players that I've got playing is that a few of them, not a lot, a few of them will start researching the random names that they find just to see like, oh, what's this thing? And they're like, oh, it's an actual thing in mythology, and it's a really nice feeling because like you're expanding someone's like mythology views on a top a part, like a side of mythology that you never see, right?
Yeah,
It's never represented.
I have a friend from Hungary, and one of the things I was like is, what is the mythology in Hungary? What is the culture like? What was it like back then? And he said a lot of that got lost. When Christianity came in, they basically overwrote a lot of that stuff. And I'm like, damn it. Because that's the kind of thing that fascinates me. I want to see RPGs that deal with cultures that you normally don't see. I want to see like African cultures and African mythology and, Middle Eastern cultures and Middle Eastern mythology. And,
I'm actually doing research right now on African, like more African mythology, but I just didn't grow up in that. Like, it's one of my big failures that I feel as a South African. I should be a little bit more in touch with like African history, but
I don't honestly, I don't think that's your fault because as
no.
like for us, for example, our mythology is purposefully buried. It's purposefully buried away. The same way you said Christianity buried a lot of Hungarian history. For us, Islam buried a lot of Levantine history in general, right? And yeah, like nowadays you don't really get taught most of your mythology. It's not really there because it often is
It
it
got
can be
quashed.
One of
it
the
gets
problems with
quashed because it can be challenging to a lot of the status quo in many
Mhm.
ways. And like I say that as a pagan, but yeah, it's
one of the big things with Christianity is when they came through, they started appropriating things from other people's cultures and then
mm,
erasing them so that they could say we were first. And this was
Mhm.
this was just us. It was never them. But
Yeah.
yeah.
if you look at a lot of their holidays, a lot of their beliefs, you can see that they've literally just pulled from everywhere, and nothing, not even a single word, seems to be unique.
Funny you should mention that. For one of my games, I was studying Canaanite mythology.
Mm,
So we're going way back. And,
Yeah.
I'm reading about
I
Baal
love Canaanite
Hadad and
mythology.
Mot, and I keep on forgetting the name of the third person out of the three, the children of El Elyon. And
Adbal and no, go on, go on. I'm just trying to
yeah,
remember.
anyway,
Yeah, but
yeah. So I was looking at this kind of stuff, and what got me started on this was when somebody mentioned, "Oh yeah, the Christian God is a part of Canaanite
yeah,
pantheon," and I was like, "Wait, what?"
yeah,
And it's like, "Oh,
that's
El
true.
Elyon." So I started looking into this and started looking at the stories and his kids, and I was looking at his kids. It's like, wait a minute, look it up again. So Zeus, Poseidon, Hades,
Yep.
interesting. And then I looked at Anat, and I was like, that would be Athena, Aphrodite, Sekhmet. What? And then it's like,
Well,
oh, there's
Sekhmet would be more
Hephaestus.
on the Egyptian side, but
Oh yeah,
the
but yeah,
the
I mean,
equivalence between those is constant. Like you see it everywhere,
yeah. And then you have like
So,
Astarte, which is the wife of El
yeah.
Elyon, and that becomes Isis and Ashtoreth,
Hmm.
and like I said, Hephaestus showed up and all this other stuff. I was just like, okay, so you can see where the roots of a lot of faiths came from way
Yeah.
back there. And then it's like, I wonder what came before that.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole topic of history, like Proto-Indo-European mythology and how it's spread, and there's also you've got Proto-Indo-European, and you've got like African origin mythologies and so on, and the melding of those two as they kind of reach into that region where
Mhm.
they meet. And I really like to dig into that. There's a very big secret in my game's book that only one person has decoded so far, and anyone can is free to try. That also relies heavily on old Canaanite and Levantine
Did he get a
history
prize?
and so on. You get a special role in the Discord server, but it's the first step because the
You get
game's
to
still in
own the
development.
game.
But as it grows up, as it grows, there will be more steps. It's kind of like an ARG, and you'll that'll be the first key to actually proceeding through it.
So
Um,
can people get your rule set already?
yes.
yeah, yeah. So it's still in alpha, but it's late alpha, almost in beta, and fully open development. So anyone's allowed to grab it for free and play it.
Yeah.
And
When
the goal
you
is to keep it free. And the reason for that is kind of the struggle that we went through. When we were first getting into games, it really was hard to get any of that. And a lot of times it was also a financial situation. Like broke, right?
Yeah.
Where are we going to pay for this kind of thing?
If
But,
you're willing to give it out for free, would you mind if I carried copies in my store?
You're
And
absolutely
I could
welcome, of
literally
course.
hand them out, for
The
free to
book
the
looks
people who
pretty
come by.
good.
Of course.
Yeah.
Very, very welcome to. Just be advised that it gets updates at least once a month, so you may need to work with those. But absolutely, you're extremely welcome to. There's also there's the core rule book, the enemy book. There's a free adventure that's tied to it, which may need a little patch because it's a bit old. And then there's just
Oh,
the
you want to
character
carry
sheet,
my
which also
books?
may need
I will carry anybody's books.
update.
You can ask Kit. I've got 2 of his books, and they're on my table every week. So,
But yeah, you're very welcome to, and it's very good for one shots as well because you can run it either as a TTRPG or just as a skirmish.
cool.
So what I do often is when I'm kind of tired of GMing, I'll call up my friends and be like, "We're just gonna do a skirmish," and we'll set up the mission area. I'll play a character, they'll play a character, and we just play it. We just fight these enemies, and we'll
Just nuzzles his game book there.
just
Let's
and we'll just go through that. So it's very good for like quick intro games as well.
yeah. Feel free to message me sometime when we're not on stream, and we'll get together and we'll talk about some details. I'd love to play the game before I start handing it out, so that way I understand the mechanics.
Absolutely. We've got a small but dedicated player base on the Discord server, so I'd be more than happy to run a game for you, and I'm sure there'll be more than enough people that'd be happy to join you if you'd like to have a party with you. But could you remind me what was your Discord? Could you send me your Discord name just so I can?
Sure. I'll put it in Geek and Greets.
Yeah, sure.
So have you talked about Stop beating your book. Have you talked about necrobiotic on our stream before? I think you brought it up at one point.
Probably.
I love the logo. I'm gonna give you that because I have not heard of the game before. It's the first time I'm hearing about it, but the logo is killer.
Throw your pitch.
Oh my god. All right. So you know how like last year scientists done figured out how to okay, keep it PG. This is gonna be hard. Okay. Figured out how to animate dead spiders.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So they were in on it, right? So we worked with them and told them when to release that information. Because our book starts about like right now, maybe about like a couple days ago. Deaths just statistically happen at a higher rate and births drop. And there's no like war, famine, or anything like that. It's just statistically that's what happened. And humanity is scratching their heads like, what bleeping is bleeping? What's happening here? And so a century later, the only way we've survived is because we figured out a way to animate and program the dead to act as our manual labor force. So once you die, you become a coffee machine, or maybe you wipe windows and stuff until you break down, and then you become something else that's stupid. And so that is necrobiotic in a weird skin flavored nutshell.
Horrifying. I love it.
Yeah,
It sounds almost like over the edge, and it's unusual.
Oh yeah. It's a card system too. So like I've been giving away my dice because I don't really use my dice at all.
You can gift them to the other guy.
I will
Well,
gift
Alex
them
is running a great card system as well. This is it's nice seeing that. It's nice seeing that like change in the variation, I would get like crucified if I tried that at my table because in the words of my players, dice go clickety clack. Need more math rocks.
You just slap them, okay? Look, your players start giving you lip. You're just like, we're not doing this.
So more dice. Like one of them tried to argue with me to change the game mechanics for the skill system. Because in the skill system here, you don't just roll one dice and that's it, right? You've got your stats matter a lot more. You roll once for like it's kind of like the effort that you expend, and the next time you get to roll that is up to the GM. And usually it's like after you rest and after you've got some time, and you can use it to like add to your skills a little bit. It's a pool you can add. But one of my friends is like, "You sure you want to keep it that way?" I mean, I'm like, "Yeah, I think I want to change it from D&D. I like the more consistency." It's like, but I want to roll math rocks.
Like, look, roll math rocks on your own time. Gee,
They
roll
would
math
probably
rocks in
hate
combat.
Crossfire and
You
Shadow,
roll a
wouldn't they?
lot of
Because it's
math rocks in
diceless.
combat.
Yeah, I have two RPGs that are completely diceless. I could just imagine them taking a look at that. It's like, so where do we roll the dice? You don't.
Well, here you just put you can roll it whenever you want. It won't matter, but
Yeah.
welcome to life.
So here's
Yeah.
a question for you. You guys were mentioning that it's kind of hard to get RPG groups together if it's not Dungeons and Dragons. You mentioned that's hard to even see Pathfinder or various other stuff. One of the things I do is if I have a new game system that I want to try out, because I'm the forever GM, I can basically say, I want to run this. And then the players will go, oh, okay. They sit down, they look through the PDFs and stuff like this to make the characters, and away we go. I hear that that's fairly unusual.
Yes.
You have a large group of friends.
Unfortunately. Yes.
And we all like role-playing games. So when you say, hey, I've got this RPG I want to try, well, we're all like-minded. So we're like, yeah, sure, go for it. That's not the case normally. Normally, the group of friends most of us hang out with, they don't do tabletop RPGs as much. I've been finding this
nerds.
out at the market. Every Saturday, I have people come up to my booth. They're like, oh, I love your shiny click-clacky math rocks, but I don't have a group to play with. And I'm like, okay, well, so one of the things I'm planning on offering in the future is I'm going to create a Discord server, and I'm going to be like, write your Discord name down here, and I will find you a group. Because there are so many people that want to play, but don't know how to find groups or GMs.
Yeah, at Can Games, there was a guy who was at my Fox Magic game, and he has a Discord server specifically for gamers in the Ottawa Valley region, specifically for not D&D games. Mm-hmm. So if you're interested in games and they're not D&D, this is where you go. This is where you meet up. There's going to be at the Clock Tower Pub, they're going to be having a get-together this weekend. I won't be going, but, But, that's great. Take the initiative, start up a Discord group, and start inviting people in and getting them connected. That's a great way to go.
I think so too.
That's all pure and awesome. Like, I have a 4-year-old, so whenever I go somewhere, I'm just like, he doesn't eat if you guys continue to buy D&D and Pathfinder and not support indie communities. So
yeah,
that's on you. It's not
on me. But it's a genuine challenge getting people to actually try something new. I found that it's really hard. So the most success I've had here is with people that have not played any TTRPGs. And it's like, you want to try something? I can run Quasar for you. Like, yeah, sure, we'll play that. But in the D&D community we have, even though it's small, I've only had success getting them to try skirmishes. But to actually join a campaign, they're like, no, we've got our weekly D&D game. We can't do another campaign. Right. And because there's a commitment to it. You're tied to it, right? And that's definitely been been a bit harder.
The way I'm seeing it is, like, if we're talking in person, on Fridays I run the Advanced 5th Edition / Adventures in Rokugan. On Sunday, my friend runs Pathfinder. At any other point in time, if I want to put together a group, my friends come over and we play whatever the hell I want to play because I'm, the forever GM. I have that weight behind me on, I want to run this, and people will be going, well, we want to play anything, so there we go. So if they're in a D&D campaign, you just say, well, we have a different day. Why don't you try this? You might like it.
We do. It is a different day, but it's just people have a limited amount of days per week where they can do this sort of thing. They've got, family, they've got so on and so forth. It's difficult. So in truth, we didn't even, like as mentioned before, we didn't even know there were other D&D players. Like, we discovered them through the dumbest luck possible. Our group had just broken down because after COVID, lost steam. 2 of them were just gotten married and were settling into new houses, and one of them was, neck deep in her master's degree. So it was just me and my buddy Hamza. And so we decide, I'm working on Quasar early on. I'm like, I need playtesters, man. Let's go down to this board game cafe. It's near your house, and we're gonna play some Quasar. And it's like, all right, fine. Whatever. We go down there. We're setting up the table, and the guy running the cafe comes up to us and is like, "You the D&D guys?" well, we are D&D guys, but we're not here for D&D. Are there supposed to be other D&D guys? And as it turns out, there's this group of expats that joins together on this big old table with a few locals as well, and they play D&D weekly. And
Nice.
suddenly they arrive, and we're just comparing math rocks and talking to each other. And we've got a D&D group again, you know.
Nice.
And we joined one of their DMs, so they split into two tables, and now we still play there weekly with them.
No,
And
that's nice.
so that is basically the entire D&D community in the country. It's just two tables, right? And right now it's just started to spread because of that new card shop. We're doing Adventurers Guild. I'm one of the DMs running there, and that's like we're getting these brand new players, completely bright-eyed, never played before, you know, and they're just finally getting immersed into this. So there is some hope spreading locally, but I also, in terms of putting food on the table, that doesn't do much for me because we've got you know, we don't really have the culture here of oh, it's free, we're gonna support it anyway. It's free, oh great, it's free, you know, like that's about it.
You're mentioning a limited amount of time in the week. I don't understand that. I'm in 7 games in the week, one for every day.
Yeah, I mean, I got that too because I'm doing this full time. But for people who are, you know, working 9 to 5s, they've got Friday and Saturday because those are our weekends, Friday and Saturday, and that's it. You know,
You just like, for me, it's satisfying people in a short amount of time. All right. I'll be like, look, I want an hour of your time. You're going to feel good throughout the whole way. By the end of it, we're both going to feel satisfied. I'm going to have sweat on my brow. And then we all go home. Okay. And then they're
How
gonna
did
be
you
like,
make that sound dirty?
No way it's gonna work out of context.
it works every time. Look, that's how I sell to some people. I'm like, look, just give me an hour of your time. Okay. You're happy. I'm happy. We're all happy. I'm not going to call you after this. All right. I'm not going to judge you for what happens here. Let's just have a game. An hour. It's all I need.
Oh, so my sorry,
No,
Beto, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
You've been trying to talk for a while, so go ahead.
My bad. I talk a lot. I'm so sorry.
We
Alex.
all do. We all do.
So
That's why we're on here.
Yeah, I mean, it's what makes it a good podcast, right? Anyways, so I've had a very similar experience to Arcane, except there is it's sort of the opposite problem. Like every game store has a D&D community, right? Almost in South Africa, right? It's like there's like maybe a total of 10 good game stores in Cape Town, right? And they all have a D&D community and they all have like D&D events. Nothing else in the tabletop community. No indie stuff, no nothing. And so like when you come in, right, as an indie developer, and you say, hey, right, I've been developing this kind of thing. Like, do you know if I could like get players, or could you like set up an event for playtesting or anything like that? That never happens, right? That's there's absolutely no support. You need to ask permission if you can even set up your thing, right, on an open play table, right? And then when you actually get players, like I had some D&D players that I knew locally, I give them my pitch of the system, right? And they agreed and they said like, oh, this sounds amazing. And then I'm sort of giving them like their sort of intro to the system and the documents. And the person who's the most experienced player of them says, oh yeah, just make a simple tutorial. None of these players are going to read anything you send them.
Yeah.
Until
pretty much.
Yeah. So yeah, and so then we went, right? They enjoyed their time because I tried to make an accessible system, right? But at the same time, it's like you're not seeing how much effort I actually put into this thing, right? And this is not a very good way to play test a system, right? I like it's just, I mean, well, I guess it is a little bit, but like being better at DMing your own system that you've been working on for 5 years than the typical DM's D&D is not a is not a high bar. Like so, like
Mm.
there's not very much feedback that I actually got from them that was worthwhile in terms of development, and that's
Yeah.
one of the biggest issues that I found there. Yeah,
And I think like part of that is, game stores have no incentive to support local designers. TTRPGs already aren't a moneymaker for game stores. Like it's all okay, but really they're like betting on Magic and all sorts of other things. And then an indie TTRPG person comes in and they're like, okay, you're
I
just
won't lie.
taking.
Magic cards are pretty, man. Like
I couldn't get into it.
cardboard
Look,
crack. Okay.
I'm Yu-Gi-Oh hardcore. Okay, if I'm not taking your soul through it, I'm not into it.
Hashtag not a sponsor.
Hashtag is a sponsor. Yu-Gi-Oh, we take souls. There you go. But yeah, like there's no financial incentive. Like you're just people in their store taking up space who aren't going to end up buying a game that they can profit from, which is understandable. I mean, having a game store, it's not like you're rolling in dough. You're probably
what they do is they do it by consignment. I mean, the local game stores here, if you're an indie game designer, they'll put your stuff up on a shelf. They will, order so many books, and they pay you once they've got sales. They don't buy ahead of time, which is the opposite of what they would normally do. But yeah, I mean, consignment works very well.
I mean, I think it's okay, but consignment's also like that's product space, right? Unless you have a huge store. And of course, I'm coming from a perspective of city, where like every square footage is like, you're paying an arm and a leg for. So you want every square footage to count. And then consignment's just kind of like, no one's really getting the profit margins they want from that. And so while it's okay, it still doesn't like, if I could put a Magic deck up there and sell it, oh man, I can afford that trip to South Carolina I've always wanted, which is still sad.
I mean, I've personally tried like talking to the little card shop we've got, and I was like, but I didn't really approach from the perspective of we can sell my game because my game's free. It was rather I can make you terrain sets. You want to start bringing Warhammer? We've discussed bringing Warhammer. I can make you my terrain sets, sell them to you, and we can have some on display for people to buy. I can have minis for you to sell.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
I mean, he
you're playing that game, man. You are.
I'm doing
them.
my best. I'll tell you that. It's not. It's going real slow, but I'm doing
you're
my
hitting
very
me right at this very fine line. I boycotted Games Workshop like a long time ago, and I've still boycotted them. On the other hand, I am of the mind that you enjoy what you enjoy, and I'm not going to yuck your yum. So you're like, I'll make terrain for Warhammer, and I'm just like,
well, it's the terrain is for Quasar originally.
Yeah,
it's made for Quasar, but the thing is, because
can be used with
Quasar,
other things.
The original inspirations for it was Kill Team. The measurements remain identical. So Quasar terrain works for Kill Team. Kill Team terrain works for Warhammer. So it, and that was one of the plans is that even if the game doesn't really take off, doesn't get a lot of love, at least there's a terrain. There's something that's out there with that. But I'm not one to give up. I am stupidly tenacious. So.
Milk those people. They got that money. So
I had we have a link posted in the chat stream for a place called Composed Dream Games. They're a distributor that I work with. They're the ones that is going to the UK and then going up into the Northwest Territories and stuff like this. Feel free to talk with them about having them sell your games, because they hit all the convention circuits and they're like going to the Montreal Comic Con and all this other stuff. So if you want to get your stuff out there, give them a shout. Let them know that I threw you at them.
Also,
I'm gonna tell them,
be awesome. Yeah.
Be like, okay, my friend Christopher said we're gonna do 70-30, so I'm gonna send you the invoice right here and now.
He does it on consignment. You give him how many books you want to give him, and he will give you a check when he's all done. Or if you ask for it a bit early, he'll be like, okay, at the end of this month, I will give you this many months worth of sales, which is what he's doing for me. So it's quite good.
That'll be brilliant.
He also sells PDFs, so if you have a PDF that you want him to sell, you can do that too.
I do have a few adventures and stuff that were Patreon exclusive. So that could be something because I do not feel comfortable, of course, selling a free book, but
Yeah.
but yeah,
Uh,
those would work great. And
yeah. And of
Sell
course,
it.
remember to talk to Rezo too, because Rezo can help out as well with the conventions that they hit.
We've actually stopped the convention
Yes.
circuit in favor of a local farmers market. It's
Oh,
more,
nice.
It's more steady. So every weekend we're at the Sanford Farmers Market instead. That's my
Damn.
company logo.
I like it.
Disaster Cat Games.
Powerful.
Yeah,
And,
because
But
there's
Brilliant.
there's a midnight market on Sunday nights over here. Maybe we should actually hit them and possibly sell books there. I never even thought of that. Thanks.
so
What's Arcane? Arcane's online players? What is that?
that's
Someone in chat.
That's yeah.
What do you mean?
Where are you pointing at?
Sorry.
Twitch.
Arcane is the gentleman next to you.
Yes.
Oh, I thought yours was Quasar.
No.
Oh no!
Quasar's
So
the
my
game.
handle is Arcane Whiskers. So I make everything like the terrain, everything under that.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
okay, cool. I'm like,
So we have a ban hat in the chat who's one of your
oh,
players.
Bad Hat!
nice.
There you
Bad Hat
go.
Yeah,
is
I'm gonna need those games
incredible.
tattooed
I'm just gonna
on
say
your
that.
head or
Like
something.
Bad Hat is genuinely incredible. He's like my first proper patron. He every update you see to the book, he bookmarks. Like he's the one who does all the bookmarks for those.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh,
And
snap.
he's just awesome. Honestly, Bad Hat,
It sounds like
you
you gotta
keep me
put a ring
going while
on it.
making this. Like it's just
Yeah, I'm actually working on a game system as well, which I have named Tessellation. So
Mhm.
we're in our play test right now, and the party has just reached the big bad. I had a suggestion for you guys who are having issues finding players. I know that you guys are in other countries for your play tests. One of the things is it sounds like D&D has taken a hold, and people don't know that there are other RPGs out there. And so when you're like, "Hey, I want to play this," they're like, "No, we want to play D&D." One of the things is your guys' systems are so far from D&D. I think what you need is an intermediary game. It's like, hey, cool, I'm gonna run Fox Magic for you guys. It's still got that huge fantasy setting. It still has that appeal, but it's a different system. That's how I actually pitch it at my table, and I've sold a couple copies of Fox Magic that way. Because people are like, "Oh, is this D&D?" And I'm, "Yes, but I also have these two games." And they're similar to D&D in the fact that they have the fantastical, magics and things like that, but they're not D&D. And then they get playing that, and then you get them hooked. And so the next thing is like, okay, so you like fantasy. Have you ever tried sci-fi? And they're like, "There's games for sci-fi?" And you're like, "Yes, this is
We got
Quasar."
hit by a commercial. Damn it.
I like
that
that's a
happens?
very like
I didn't
beautiful
know that.
ethical way to go about it. Because for me, I'm just someone's like, I would love to play D&D, and I'm like, okay, cool. I have a game called Cult. I'm gonna run that for you.
Oh, I love
And they're
Cult.
like, that's D&D. I'm like, yeah, it's D&D.
We're offline for another 5 seconds.
Oh, they don't do the okay, we're back. Okay, look.
Have a
Okay,
sip of
we're
water
back.
by that happens.
all right, here's my unethical way to get people to play any game. Okay, they're like, I really want to play D&D. For me, I usually start them with Cult or City of Mist, and then I'm like, yeah, it's D&D. Like, don't worry about
Oh, I
it.
love Cult.
Don't worry
Cult is
about it.
so
Don't think
great.
about it too hard.
Yeah. Like, what do you know? I don't have to explain this to you. Like, it's dice.
Unfortunately, we can't really talk too much about Cult because Cult is not PG.
Oh, it is not.
Oh,
Yeah, it
man.
is not at all.
Not even remotely.
Yeah, it is. Woo! I
I
mean,
have
of
another
course,
game
we
that I've
still
written.
sell it in elementary schools, but that's really for just for reasons. But
I
yeah,
still have
like,
a inside joke from my Cult campaign dealing with evil goats. The players had a nightmare that had talking goat men. The next morning, they're talking about they look at the goats outside and talk to this woman. And it's like, "What's with the goats out there?" And she's like, "Goats? I don't own any goats." And they go look at the goats, and the goats are staring inside the front door. Remember?
Oh no.
And then they walk off. And the players are just like, "Okay, we're creeped out now."
See, I love that.
great.
Yeah, and just be like, yeah, this is D&D, and then just roll with
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And just if they complain, whatever. Like they, you probably don't want them anyway. If they're
So funny
like,
enough,
oh god, yeah,
I like crunchy game systems. I like game systems that give the players a lot of choices for character design, allow them to make the characters they want to make. We're talking Pathfinder with the archetypes. We're talking Shadowrun, things like that. The games I make are very rules light for some really strange reason, but it makes it really easy for the players to catch on to the game and just get right into it. So, with me, it's like if it is this like D&D, I'm like, no, it's a fantasy setting, but the rules are really quick and intuitive. I can show you in like 20 seconds how the rules work.
Yeah.
So I'm writing games that I would kind of rather just sit back and watch rather than play, but they seem to be popular because they're like that. Most people don't want to get into the deep crunch because they don't have the time for it anymore.
I mean,
Oh my
I've
God,
with Quasar, I've had an odd situation where, to me, obviously, as a developer, we have this is a bias you learn in design in general, because when I was working in mechanical science one, is that you are not your consumers. You're not the people you design for.
Exactly.
And everything feels really easy to you as the person who's designing the game. But I found that so for brand new players, people who have never touched TTRPG before, or they struggle. They will struggle deeply. People that have played video games before go in really smoothly. They're like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I know how these classes work. I get these mechanics, especially if they
This
play
works
card
with this,
games or
this works
so.
with this, this works with this.
Yeah, like one
Yeah.
of my players, my local group is a Yu-Gi-Oh fanatic, and to him, all the rules just make perfect sense.
Yeah, I've seen people
This
playing
happens
the
when
modern
this
Yu-Gi-Oh.
happens.
That's nuts.
That's it.
And
Right?
it
Like,
really
yeah, you've
depends
got to be a
on, like-
lawyer to play that, you know?
Oh yeah, it's like
Yeah.
wow.
It
Right?
really
And
depends
then
on
you've got,
what
like-
game too.
Yeah, and then like you've got experienced TTRPG players seem to snap onto the game like it's nothing, right? Like it's a magic. Just clicks immediately, makes a lot of sense right away. But that's something you kind of got to think about when you're making these, right? Who's your audience? Is it brand new players? Is it experienced players? Is it in between? And I guess for me, I didn't really think about that to start with, but it's kind of found this great niche of if it's really well for experienced players, really well for people that are intermediary. Beginners might struggle. They might struggle when they're getting into it. But yeah, it's not hard to teach them. It's like the mechanics are fairly basic, but the very concept of like how you actually function with these still hasn't really clicked there. So maybe
Like,
for that case, rules light is better for intro.
So I got two quick stories. When I was working on a setting of mine, I talked with the game designer John Wick. You may have heard of him.
Did you say John Wick?
John Wick, Legend of Five
Dog
Rings, Seven Sea,
guys.
Orc World. Yeah, him. So I was
Okay.
asking him, like, what should I do about getting a license to use a game engine for my game setting? And what he told me was, you don't. You write the game engine to match your setting so that it fits nice with your setting. You don't bend your setting to fit the rule set of somebody else's game. And this is actually what got me started into making my own game engines for my games and stuff like this. So a friend of mine writes things for Pathfinder, Pathfinder 2nd Edition, 5th Edition D&D and stuff like this. And when I'm pitching him my game settings, he's like, well, that's not going to work with these games because it's broken. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't care. I'm not building the game for the game engine. I'm using the game engine for the the game that I want to run, and I want it to run this way. And he's like, well, it's not going to sell as much. Your audience isn't going to be interested in that. It's like, I'm not writing games for my audience. I'm writing games that I want to play, but I'm using the game engines that they can use, and that's where the disconnect comes in.
Right.
Yeah. One of my earliest homebrews was using the Pathfinder rule set to run a StarCraft game.
Ooh, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, like that.
When I first wrote Fox Magic, my wife has dyscalculia and math anxiety. She doesn't play with numbers whatsoever. So with my first draft of Fox Magic, I handed it to her and I said, hey, make a character. And she's like, well, you're going to help me with this, right? No. You get to do this on your own. And she was very apprehensive. 5 minutes later, she's like, I'm done. And I'm like, this means that I did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
Yeah,
somebody
I-
who can't make characters on their own can make a character in the game that I've designed, then I consider that a good game design.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like that was upsetting to me at first when the totally new players struggled to make the character on their own. Like to me, like the sheet on how to create a character it's one page with like 6 bullet points. That's all I need to read to make a character. Or for someone who's never played before, they got lost, right? It's like, okay, which one of these are the classes? Which one of these are the species? It's like, okay, well, that says species, that says classes, but to you it's intuitive. To someone that's brand new, it's just not there.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think for like really new players, systems that bring them on board and help them roll through can be very important. I personally had a big, like, me and my group, my like original group, have always had a big bias because we've always played card games and video games and so on. So all this just fits neatly, right? It just goes right through. But for those who haven't, it's a big hurdle, and you definitely need something more rules like what Christopher was saying.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of a game called Anima Beyond Fantasy?
No?
Heard of
It's a
that.
Spanish RPG. It is the artwork is beautiful, the world building is beautiful. You could pretty much use any anime trope in it. It's got the
Okay.
engine for this. The downside is you need to be really, really good at math to do character creation, and you literally need a spreadsheet to do combat. I
Okay.
built a spreadsheet specifically for the combat system because it's necessary.
All right.
So I consider that really bad game design,
Mm.
but it's a beautiful game. And if you could just get past all the math and the number crunching and all that other stuff, it would be a really good game. Another one you've of course probably heard of, Exalted.
I've
No,
definitely
I don't
heard
believe
that.
I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
love Exalted. Oh, you get to
Exalted
do
is
so much.
a game done by the people who did the Vampire the Masquerade RPG.
Oh, okay.
It's a fantasy. I ran a second edition campaign, and I had players every single session going, how do I roll initiative? How do I do an attack? After I've explained it to them every session before.
Yeah.
I had to write a flow chart for these people to learn how to use their special abilities.
That'd be me. Yeah, that's totally like my wife is the number cruncher, and like
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to make a number cruncher game, and so I'm like,
Yeah. And
hand her a
I
sheet of
tell people
paper.
the world building is phenomenal. It is a beautiful
Mhm.
setting. The mechanics suck
Oh god.
because there's different types of exalts, which are basically ascended people. They have their own unique abilities and stuff. They're broken down into 3 to 5 castes for each type of exalt and all this other stuff.
God.
And each one has their own rules base, effectively, for how they do stuff.
Mhm.
The final combat for one of my campaigns had 5 exalts of one type, 3 exalts of another type, 5 exalts of another type, 5 exalts of another type, plus the PC party, plus the NPCs that are working with the PC parties, which is a different exalt type. And I couldn't run the combat because there was just too much mechanics there of too many different types, and I can't keep it all in my head. And I had to write out like 30 different character sheets to get everything down just right. And I was like, no, I can't do this. So I had to end the campaign. And I was like, any game where you must use hand wavium to run the game is a bad game system.
Yeah,
If it's built
absolutely.
into the game, then okay, I don't like it, but I'll
Absolutely.
accept it. But if the game master can't use the rules, then
What's the
why do you
point of
have
the
the rules
rules?
there? Exactly.
Yeah, what's the point of the rules at that point? That's
Yeah.
true. Just a bit off topic, but it's kind of I just remembered it. But Alex, do you have any trouble with social media on your end?
Um, I don't really engage with very much social media, right? I've never been the one for that big thing, right? Coming into the sphere of social media, even if I try, I should expect to underperform, right? That's right. It would be nice to have that sort of thing backing me, but really at this point, I might as well just outsource it, right? Because I have so much more interesting ideas on the dev side, right? So I'm
Absolutely.
prefer to be just a recluse, right? Literally just working on these rule sets in private, testing them with a bunch of small other recluses, PhD students, that kind of people. Then eventually I would like to show the world, but that's hard to do, right? If you don't have a platform.
I mean, that's
And the
probably
reason I
the
ask is mainly, I'm sorry, but the reason I ask
Okay.
is mainly, I've struggled a bit in the reach department,
Mm.
in that Instagram in particular seems to lock my reach to Arabic speaking regions, where, yeah, here in Jordan, maybe you might have a very small community that might be interested, but also in neighboring countries, you've mostly got a lot of political instability and way more important things to deal with than, learning TTRPGs, right? More like dealing with the threat of civil war and so on and so forth. And I noticed even though I would try, it just locks it to these regions. That's it. So I don't get any reach,
Oh
right?
my
Like it's very difficult. The only time I would get out of that is when I pay for a promotion,
Mhm.
Mm.
specifically for the States, for example.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been a big
That
hindrance, I
is
think, in
so
that
hard
department.
for you to do anything on Kickstarter or any
Hmm.
other like Western platform. So like I'm glad you're not planning on going that route because that sounds like an absolute pain. I ran into a similar issue in China, right?
Hmm.
For various reasons, but I didn't want to get in social media in China, right? So that's also, but it is what
Yeah. Well, we have there's a place that we wound up hooking up with called Crowdfunder, which is a
Yeah.
Canadian-based crowdsourcing thing like Kickstarter and stuff like this. It looks pretty good. We could probably help you with that on our end. Like if you
One
want
of
to
Cool.
bring it up with our team, we can see about trying to promote you through that.
one of the things
That would
about
be awesome. Yeah.
you being region locked is you can get somebody who's not in your region to also promote you.
Hmm.
I had like my business, like I'm crap at social media, so I hired somebody. She's very good. So if you give me some information, hook up with follow our page, I can start having her like boost your posts through us. I don't have that many followers yet, but the last time that I watched her start a social media for a comic shop, I watched the numbers grow weekly. And she's really good
Okay.
at what she does. So yeah, you let me know, give me some information,
Okay.
and I will see if I can get her to boost it on her profile.
That would be amazing. Honestly, that would
But
be absolutely incredible.
Networking.
when you are ready to make an RPG that you actually do want to sell for profit, um, we will look into print on demand here in the States as well as over
Hmm.
there. This way we
Mhm.
get it past customs just by giving a digital file.
Right.
And then we don't have to worry about paying custom fees and stuff like that. We can
Right.
sell it here. We can get it to stores here
Yeah.
and distribute it that way. That way you're not having the same issue that you're having with dice, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I personally wouldn't mind selling the physical hard copies, right? It's a way to support the game.
Yeah.
And it remains that you can get the PDF for free,
I
right? Like
mean,
you can grab that.
people
You like the hard copy, prefer to work on that, you can get it and support the game. So that could
I
absolutely be
love hard
something we
copy.
could do once it's done. I love them too. I like the smell of
they're
the
my fave.
books,
Yeah.
but yeah,
people
See
buy
it.
collector's editions. People buy collector's editions for a reason, right?
yeah,
Definitely, I'd buy your book when it's like big and nicely polished and like all of the artwork. I mean, you've done a pretty good job, even so, but it's not finished yet, so I'm not gonna buy it now. But like,
Oh,
it's
you can buy mine. I can show you the website. I would
Like
like to
Can
go to
Games, I wound up
McDonald's.
picking up another Canadian RPG, New Ado, which
Ooh,
I really like. It is beautiful setting. I'm
gorgeous.
looking forward to the person making more. But yeah, I mean, with me, the physical book is always my primary draw because I like to have the thing that I can just kind of casually flip through. That's why I picked up the Avatar: The Last Airbender RPG and something Gaia.
Yeah.
Lots
And
of
you also
RPGs
get
that
like a
picked up.
good like margin on it. I mean, if you're printing for like 500 or 1,000, it's like you're trying for that like $5 per $4 per book. And then you sell it for like 50 or 100. And then you're like, oh, now I get to eat at McDonald's. I get to
So-
order from the not dollar menu, which is
The
great.
first RPG I ever published, Fox Magic, print on demand was not a thing yet. I printed 1,000 copies It took me 20 years to sell them all.
Ooh, that's
Oh
a
God.
I have
I-
original prints at my shop.
Yeah, I was not happy with that. Now that I've done the print on demand through Drive-Thru RPG, it looks so much better. Oh, it looks so much better.
I actually I have the opposite issue where I'm about to run out of necros, so I need to figure out when I'm doing another print run. And when it first came over, we had man, I think it was like 2000 or 2500, and so now it's like, oh, especially the special edition, it's like God, I'm almost out.
Do you sell it through Drive-Thru RPG or IPR?
I sell it via PDF on Drive-Thru RPG. I will never do what was it, print on demand. The
not?
quality is too low for
Oh, no,
my.
I would disagree. For yours specifically, have you had it tested?
I have not, but every book I've gotten from Drive-Thru RPG, whether it's World of Darkness or anything like that, and even if it's a premium version, I'm looking at one, the profit margins are not great, and the quality is lower. So it's like, why? Why
Yeah,
would
I'm
I?
wondering why. Okay, when was the last time you did that? Because recently Drive-Thru RPG upped their base quality, and like anything that I have go through that, it looks nice. Anything I've ordered there from print on demand, like Godbound or Worlds Without Number, the print quality has always been very good.
Yeah, but then also like the profit, right? Like if I can print it at $4 per, why would I get Drive-Thru print on demand? Which how much do you make, or how much are you being charged for every book?
Okay, for one of the books, it cost me $3 to print it, and I sell it for 12.
$3. What? How many pages? Color? Are we talking about hardbound?
No. This would be soft cover. For the hardcover, which would be, let's see, for hardcover, I think it was $8 for printing, and it's usually sold for 30.
Yeah.
One
So
thing
I
that
mean, the most expensive part of print on demand is the shipping, because shipping is expensive.
Yeah.
Oh God, always. I'm shipping
Yeah.
to Canada, and it's like giving me nightmares. It's not a real country.
For Can Games, when I ordered the books, I ordered 60 books, and the shipping cost was $40.
Mm.
And they just walk to the end of the world, to the north, open up a portal and throw it through, and hope that the person
You hand a book to a moose,
Yeah.
and then you're like, "Go! There is a Canadian
Just
who
a
wants
Mountie
it."
riding a moose comes up
Yeah.
to you.
Well, I always heard it
Accept
was
your moosey fate.
a moose riding a Mountie. But yeah. So far, Drive-Thru RPG, like even in I've got like World of Darkness stuff, and I am a stickler. Like I know that I would say words, but I can't because it's PG. I'm a family friendly guy right now. But yeah, when I like, and I'm weird at conventions. I'm like rubbing up on your books. And I'm like smelling it and stuff, and I'm like eating it and everything. So far, like it has it, and then also I know. I think they're going to be raising the prices on print on demand, just because it's not great margins for their printers that they're using either. And I've heard that from the perspective of like the Indie Game Development Network. So that's why like printing...
Have you heard what's happening with WotC?
What the?
What is it this time?
Wizards
So they have to stagger the print run for the new books, because no printing company is willing to print all of them in one go.
Okay. Thing is, their books are just so expensive. Like at least for us here, it's prohibitively expensive.
It's like almost $50 to $60 a book these days.
Yeah, and that is
for that.
a lot. Like you have to remember, like wages here are much lower on average, like a good chunk lower. So like buying a book like that is not worth it usually. You gotta really really consider it.
You have to sell blood first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of gotta
I did that at Gen Con.
Make that
You
unwise
sold
decision.
blood at Gen Con?
Yeah, I was out of money and I wanted to buy more books, and so I gave blood so I can
my
eat the cookies and juice to fulfill my lunch requirements. And then I went back to work and I was able to use my food money for book money. And that is how you buy more books. That's how you support the indie group. If you are not giving blood, I don't know if you're
Blood, sweat, and tears, right?
You do not actually get paid for donating blood up here in Canada.
Really?
Really?
I don't know if we get paid
Do they
for
at
it
least
here.
give you maple syrup and waffles or something? Or
Oh,
maybe a mini moose?
A mini moose, yeah, a tiny little moose. No, they give you a sticker, they give you cookies, and they
Okay.
give you juice. And after so many donations, you get a nice little pin that you can wear showing how many times you've donated.
Okay. It is a little weird paying for blood, I'll be honest. It's a little
Well,
dystopian, I think.
It's weird
But
that you can't sell more. Like I was the other day looking up, okay, I got all these organs. I obviously don't need all of them. Can I sell one of these to help fund like my next TTRPG product? And then like Google's like it's illegal and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, that's stupid, Google. I'm sure there's a
Gee, I
country.
wonder why.
Yeah, there should be a country out there somewhere where I can give my soul if required in order to do another TTRPG book. But I have to head out. It has been a wonderful pleasure talking to all you guys.
It's
I
very
need to
nice talking
follow
to you
all
too.
of you. So put your socials in the little Discord thing because I'm just
Yeah.
going to be like, hey, what's up? I really love your mustache. How'd you make it happen? What did you do? Like,
Thanks.
what do you eat? And that's
So
for
you're talking-
both of you.
You're talking about mine.
So
Yeah,
drop your links in the socials, and when we transfer this over to YouTube, we'll put it into the notes so that people can click on and run into you guys.
Excellent. I'll post my the PG links.
And
Yeah.
text me on Discord about that offer.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we're rolling. Let's do it. All right, guys.
Yeah.
I love you so much.
Yeah. So take care, everyone. We'll
Good
wrap
luck with
things
your
up
game.
here.
Hey.
Yeah. So ciao.
I should have let him know that I was going to be running the next Geek and Greet without you.
Yeah. Well, we'll let them know. Anyway, take care, everyone.
Wait, are we?
All right.
Are we?
We're
ending?
wrapping.
We signing up?
Yeah, we're wrapping.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I did want to say this one thing, right? Printing costs are like about a third in South Africa and China.
Oh,
So, but shipping costs and the other like VATs and like taxes for shipping it to elsewhere in the world is problematic, right? That's where the extra cost comes in. But if you want to print something for like a local thing, it's really, really easy. That's not the hard part.
Okay.
I mean, that was a big factor about like why I make my minis and Terrain to be 3D printed. Because like if you're gonna ship them, that is a disaster. You know, that is an absolute disaster. But
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the stream. If you guys want to keep hanging
all right,
out, we can.
thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks for watching,
And this was
everybody.
really fun. Thanks for having me.